Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Green. We're doing another Bible study, day 140, Esther 7 through 10. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell. That way you get updated whenever I post a new video. Like the video and also comment. Anything you comment's really going to help with the algorithm. I'd appreciate it. Remember, I'm dyslexic and I stutter, so when I see a big word, I get a little confused. Just bear with me. And here we go. Esther chapter 7. So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again to Esther on the second day of the banquet of wine, "What is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted to thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed even to half of the kingdom." For we are sold, and I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondsmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, "Who is he, and where is he, that does presume it in his heart to do so?" And Esther said, "The adversary, the enemy, is this wicked Haman." And Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. And the king, arising from his banquet of wine in his wrath, went to the palace garden. And Haman set out to make a request for his life to Esther the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. And the king returned out of the palace garden to the place of the banquet of wine, and Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, "Will he force the queen also before me in the house?" As the word went out to the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. And Harmath, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, "Behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken good of the king, standeth in the house of Haman." And the king said, "Hang him thereon." So they hung Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. Esther chapter 8. On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman the Jew, enemy to Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. And Esther spoke yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite, and his device that had devised against the Jews. And the king held out the golden scepter towards Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king, and said, "If it pleases the king, I have found favor in thy sight, and thy thing seemeth right before the king. And if it be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedah, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews that are in the king's province. And how can I endure to see the evil that I shall come to my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred?" And the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, "Behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him has he hung upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews. Write you also the Jews that is liketh you to the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. For the written which is written by the king's name, and sealed with the king's ring, may not no man reverse." Then were the king's scribes called at the time of the third month, that is the month Savan, on the 23rd day thereof, as it is written according to that Mordecai commanded unto the Jews, and to the lieutenants and the deputies and rulers of provinces, which are from India to Ethiopia, 127 provinces, unto every province according to the writing thereof, and unto every people and to their language, and their Jews according to their writings and according to their language. And when he wrote the king Ahasuerus' name, he sealed it with the king's ring, and sent letters by post on horseback, and riders by mules, camels, and young dromedaries, wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together, and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slain, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and provinces that would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoils of them for a prey. Or on the day of providences of King Ahasuerus, namely, upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar. The copy of the writing for a commandment will be given to every province, was published unto all the people, and that the Jews should be ready against that day to avenge themselves of their enemies. So the posts that rode upon mules and camels went out, being hasted and pressed on the king's commandment, and the decree was given at Shushan the palace. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in a royal apparel of blue and of white, and with a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen and purple. The city Shushan rejoiced, and it was glad. The Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor in every province and every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came. The Jews had joy and gladness, a feast of a good day, and many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. Esther chapter 9. Now the 20th month, now the 12th month, that is the month Adar, the 13th day of the same, where the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them. The Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, to lay hands on such thought to hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon the people. And all the rulers of the provinces, and the lieutenants and the deputies, and the officers of the king helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went throughout the provinces, for this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Thus the Jews smote all the enemies with the stroke of a sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would to those that hated them. And in Shushan the palace the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men, and Perishdonath, and Dalphon, and Asphath, and Portai, and Aldei, and Aridoth, and Parmath, and Arsha, and Ardiah, and Velisma. The 10 sons of Haman, the sons of Hemadath, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on their spoils laid not their hand. And in that day the number of those that were slain in Shushan the palace was brought before the king. And the king said unto Esther the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman, which they have done in the rest of the king's provinces. Now what is thy petition, and it shall be granted thee, or what is thy request further, and it shall be done? Then said Esther, if it pleases the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan, to do tomorrow also according to this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hung upon the gallows. And the king commanded it to be done, and a decree was given at Shushan, that they hung Haman's 10 sons. But the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan, but on the prey they laid not their hand. But the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together, and stood for their lives, and had rest for their enemies, and slew off their foes 70 and 5,000, but they laid not their hands on the prey. On the 13th day of the month Adar, on the 14th day of the same rested they, and made a day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, on the 15th of the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Jews at the villages that dwelt in the wailing towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and a sending of portions to one another. And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters to all the Jews that were in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both nigh and far. Establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar, and the 15th day of the same year yearly. And in the days when the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which they turned to them from a sorrow of joy, and from mourning to a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions to one another, and gifts to the poor. And the Jews undertook to do as they began, and the Mordecai had written unto them, because Haman the son of Hammedatha, the Agite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and cast pur, that is, the lot, to consume them and to destroy them. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that this wicked device, which he devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his sons shall be hung on the gallows. Wherefore they called these days Purim after the name Pur. Therefore all the words of this letter, and all that had been concerning this matter, in which they come unto them, the Jews ordained and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon such as joined themselves to them, so it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to their writings, and according to all of their appointed time every year. And on these days shall be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city. And these days Purim should not fall from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed. Then Esther the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai the Jew, wrote with authority to confirm the second letter of Purim. And he sent the letters to all the Jews, to 120 and 70 provinces of the king of Ahasuerus, with the words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim and their times appointed, according to Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen had enjoyed themselves, and they have decreed for themselves and their seed the matters of the fasting and the cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters with Purim, and it was written in the book. Esther chapter 10. And the king Ahasuerus laid out tribute upon the land and upon the isles of the sea. And in the acts of his power and his might, and the declaration of the greatness of Mordecai, whereunto the king advanced him, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Media and Persia? For Mordecai the Jew was next unto King Ahasuerus, a great among the Jews, and accepted to the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people, and speaking peace to all of his seed. Well, guys, that's the video. I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell. That way you get updated whenever I post a new video. Like the video and also comment. Anything you comment's really going to help me out. I'd appreciate it. I'm going to put a couple links on the screen. The bottom right is going to be the Read the Bible in 1 year study. The top left is going to be a playlist I think you're going to like. And then the bottom left is going to be a video YouTube thinks you're going to like. If you know somebody that might benefit from this, please share it with them. You can also share it on social media. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.